What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tuesday, December 12th edition of the NBA Lineup Generator video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And we have a nice 5-game NBA slate tonight. We have a lot of moving parts, a lot of questionable players on a slate where the bulk of the teams are on back-to-backs. So things are certainly going to change between now and lock, as they usually do. Highly recommend signing up to use the Lineup Generator for yourself all the way up until lock, using the link below. I'll have more on that in a bit. But we are going to look through the slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel as always. First, make sure you hit the like button, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get alerts when our shows go live. We're going to start on the DraftKings side as usual. And the first set of options you have is the type of lineup that you want to see. All lineups, chalky lineups, balanced or contrarian lineups. What you choose is dependent on the types of contests that you're playing. The smaller the field, the chalkier that you can look to go. In your large field stuff, you're probably going to want to see more contrarian or balanced lineups. For this video, I'm going to choose contrarian. Then the next option is that you can lock someone in if you want to. You can sort by optimal percentage, projection, or boom percentage to get the players that rank the highest in any of those categories. I don't recommend doing this if you're playing, 20 lineups or more the more lineups you're playing, the less likely I would be to do this. But if you are playing one lineup or three lineups, it can make a lot of sense to just save yourself time. Make sure that all of the lineups that you're presented with have someone if you know that you want to play that player. I'm going to skip it for the purpose of this video. And then now we get to the actual lineups. And if you're not familiar by now with the lineup generator tool, what it's doing is it uses our player projections, ownership projections, and simulation models on the back end. That does all the work for you and then presents you with lineups that project to be profitable in the long run. You then have the ability to save or discard the lineup, depending on if you like it or not. If you save it, obviously it is saved, and you can later export it to whichever site you're playing on. If you don't like it, discard it, and you will simply be presented with another lineup that projects to be profitable. You can do the same thing, save, discard, and just keep going until you have enough lineups that you like. You can see here that you have the total salary, fantasy projection, and ownership projection at the top. You have sliding scales down here that tell you how the lineup compares to all lineups. So this, projects well. It is relatively contrarian because we know that a fantasy point projection and an ownership projection, while it can be interesting to know the numbers, it doesn't mean anything by itself. It's how it projects, or how it compares rather, to everything else. And then you also get all of the data on the players from an individual standpoint, Luka's salary, fantasy projection, ownership, for example. So you can see all of that here. And then you have a customization option over here on the right-hand side. Let's say that you really like this lineup, but for whatever reason you don't want to play Luka, just click the arrows and it's going to show you all of the other point guards. Because Luka is so expensive, we could go to any of them. You can make him into Devin Booker if you wanted, and then you're going to have $1,400 to upgrade a different position. So you do have that ability if you wanted to just sort of take the foundation of a lineup, say, I really like this lineup in general, but what if I downgrade Luka and upgrade Peyton Pritchard? You can do that very, very easily. And so now I'm just going to save the first 20 lineups, and we can take a look at our exposures. And there are going to be some kind of wonky ones right now. There's no real way around it just because of the question marks on this slate. But we have Malik Monk at the top, $6,100, 65% ownership, or 65% exposure rather. He's projected for a lot less ownership than that, which is probably why he's showing up so much. Projected for 13% ownership. So we are using him as a key contrarian piece here. Derek Lively at 5,600 is going to look very good. Now, Grant Williams is back for Dallas, but we do still have a Q tag on Derek Jones Jr. We have a Q tag on Hardaway. Kyrie Irving is still out, and we also have a Q tag on Luka himself. So it is still likely that we get a ton of playing time from Derek Lively. Derek Jones Jr. likely to play a ton of minutes if he's available to play. If he's not, that's just going to open up more minutes for other guys on Dallas. Then we start getting to the other side of that game with Jared Vanderbilt, Cam Reddish, Austin Reeves coming in from the Lakers. They are all relatively inexpensive. We're generally getting around 28 minutes or so from Reeves. Reddish should play mid to upper 20s as well. Vanderbilt playing less minutes and center only hurts, but he's only $3,700. It does open some other stuff up. We do have value on this slate, but a lot of it is more guys in that 5K range as opposed to guys sub 4K. So that's why you're seeing Jared Vanderbilt show up. Dante Exum getting in 40% of lineups. He should play a lot. and it's really just a matter of how much, depending on which of the questionable players on Dallas end up playing. $3,800 Peyton Pritchard, nothing at all in the world exciting about this, but he is cheap and it will open some doors for you, just like Jared Vanderbilt. Then we get to D'Angelo Russell, who did actually close the championship game on Saturday against Indiana. I don't think that he is going to consistently close games, but it is nice to know that he can do it. So at this price tag at 6,200, even if you get 26 or 27 minutes from Russell, he'll be fine, or look fine at least. And if he's playing well and does get in the closing lineup, he's going to clearly look even better. Then we have Max Strus, Josh Okogie, and Bradley Beal rounding things out. Beal is a tricky one here. This is his first game back from an extended absence. Expecting around 29, 30 minutes makes sense. He's reasonably priced at 6,900. There is no Kevin Durant. We do have Devin Booker. But one thing that can be tricky here is, assuming Beal is on a minutes limit, it does limit the amount of volatility you have in terms of him playing, more minutes than projected. And that can be kind of problematic here. But, 30% of him on a 5-game slate isn't the end of the world. If you wanted to cut it back, it is very easy to do on the screen as well. You simply click Bradley Beal. It's going to show you all of your Beal lineups. And then you can just go discard the ones that you like the least, however you want to determine that. Go down to get more lineups, and it's going to take you to the previous page. And then you can just replace the Bradley Beal lineups that you deleted with lineups that do not have Bradley Beal. And then we're right back to where we were, except now we have 20% Beal instead of 30. So that's another way that you can customize your lineups very easily. You'll want to pay attention to the consequences of that. For example, here, there's nobody that I started getting a lot more of that I don't want. But sometimes, especially if you were to do it with a cheap player, say I were to start cutting out Peyton Pritchard, which is a very reasonable thing to do. Say I were to start cutting that back, I might just start getting another sub 4K guy that doesn't look any better. So you might have to kind of make a couple of trips and play around with your exposures to get everything how you want. But keep in mind that all of the lineups you're being presented with project to be profitable. So on this screen, it kind of just comes down to your risk tolerance and how much your preference and how much of any particular player you want to play. Now, we can look at some of these individual lineups, and the second one here looks interesting. Only 129% aggregate ownership. So we have Bradley Beal and Cam Reddish at 10 and 23%. Max Strus, 6,400. Really unappealing spot tonight, but it's a 5-game slate. He's going to play a lot of minutes. Evan Mobley is out again, which is nice. 7.5% ownership coming into Strus. Now, Markieff Morris is a really weird one here because Grant Williams is playing. So it's likely that Morris, the way things look right now, Morris isn't that great of a play. As you can see here, we only have him projected for 9 fantasy points. But if Derrick Jones Jr. were to be ruled out, or even if Tim Hardaway gets ruled out, it could potentially open up more minutes for Morris. Jones probably the bigger one there. So right now, it's kind of just an in-between period where Morris looked good earlier in the day when it didn't look like Grant Williams was going to play. Now Grant Williams is playing, so that's come down, but has the potential to end up being a decent value play. Jared Vanderbilt, already mentioned him. Don't love it, but he is cheap. Then you get to Luka, who, if he's in, looks good. 4 out of the 5 games that he's played without Kyrie Irving this year, he's played at least 40 minutes. He's averaged 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. Just about. Derrick Jones Jr. should play a lot if he plays. If he doesn't, then again, that's going to open up some other stuff. And then Paul George at 8,400, 1.08 DraftKings points per minute for him in the games that he has played with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard active this year. Now we can take a look at FanDuel and do the same thing over there. But first, if you are interested in using this tool for yourself, which I highly recommend, sign up using the link in the description below on YouTube or the link that I tweet out below the video that you are watching right now on Twitter. It's $14.95 per week, and we created this tool with the lower price point in mind. It is intended for your single entry, 3 max, 20 max type players. And we know that one of the most difficult things about improving in DFS is finding the sweet spot between getting tools that will help and make you better and not paying so much for those tools that it's close to impossible for you to profit because you're not playing that much money any given night and you're paying a lot for tools. So we created this for you. It doesn't have all of the same options and inputs available that the full Sims product does. I highly recommend using the Sims product if you play enough volume for it to make sense for you. But if you don't, this is a tool that is intended to help you improve. You will get better at DFS and eventually maybe move up to stakes where, paying full freight for the full Sims package makes sense. So $14.95 per week, perfect for your single entry, 3 max, 20 max type lineups. Now looking at FanDuel, we're going to go with contrarian lineups again. We're going to skip locking anybody in, and I'm going to just grab the first 20 lineups that we get since you already know how the lineups work now, and we can get to the next page. where we have Eric Gordon, 5,500, 70% exposure to him. He is $1,100 less expensive on FanDuel than on DraftKings. Generally, when you get a price disparity like that, you're just going to get a lot of the player on FanDuel. Josh Okogie, 4,400. Again, no Kevin Durant. Opens minutes up for him. Malik Monk at 5,600, so $500 less than DraftKings, is in 55% of the lineups that I saved. Then we get to Max Strus at 6K, Klay Thompson, LeBron James, who looks good on DraftKings, but better on FanDuel. On DraftKings, LeBron and Anthony Davis are basically the same price. They're separated by $100. Davis looks a little bit better there, but on FanDuel, you have a $1,200 price gap, so LeBron is going to look better there. Nikola Vucevic, still no Zach LaVine, favorable $8,100 price tag. Power forward eligibility for Domantas Sabonis is very useful at $9,700. We're getting to some De'Aaron Fox at $10,200. Dante Exum, Drew Eubanks with power forward eligibility, and KCP rounding things out over here. Now, scrolling through these lineups to see if anything stands out in terms of projection or ownership. The second lineup from the top projects for 154% ownership, 279 fantasy points. So we're not giving up much compared to other lineups in terms of fantasy points. We have 5% De'Aaron Fox, solid contrarian play there. Anytime you can get the Fox at low ownership, it's going to be relatively appealing. Malik Monk at a good price tag. KCP fairly priced at 4,800. Then we get to Okogie as our second shooting guard. Max Strus at 6K and Norm Powell at 4,900. Neither of those guys are overly exciting, but it's small forward, and that position generally just isn't going to look good. And then we're getting to some better players with Domantas Sabonis looking like a very strong power forward option. Draymond Green at 7K, and then Yusuf Nurkic rounding things out at 12% owned at center. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for checking out the video. Don't forget to sign up using the link below to take advantage of this tool and improve your own DFS performance using the links below. Other than that, good luck on your lineups tonight, and thank you for checking out the video.